So next up is Jim Preston. Jim actually was on our stages, God, maybe 3-4 years ago when we did an event at the Olympic Park, and I'm glad to have him back. So thanks for joining us. Jim is the Vice President of Sales for a company called Ben. He's going to be talking about hiring A players. Jim brings over 2 decades worth of experience as a sales leader, spending time at companies like Salesforce, Showpad, most recently Sedna. He's recently joined Ben, the platform that is on a mission to make employee benefits work for everyone, where he'll be growing the high-performance team. Can we have a big round of applause, please, for Jim? Thank you.
Hello, nice to be back. Thank you, James. Look, my name's Jim Preston, I'm VP Sales at Ben, and I'm going to talk to you about hiring A players, but also why I think it's more important that we hire A players now than it ever has been. And so look, a bit of an intro on me and to sort of give you some background as to why I think I'm confident enough to stand up here and talk to you about this. Been in sales for 20 years, as James says, 20 years selling tech, 12 of those in SaaS. I've worked as an IC in SMB, mid-market, enterprise, then as a sales leader, doing exactly the same as the companies James has just sort of covered off. In that time, I've interviewed hundreds of people. I've got some experience, got some questions that I think have actually helped me, understand what good looks like. But recently, luckily enough, with Ben, like I'm on to Ben in a minute, our investors, Atomico, by the way, they're very good, they introduced me to some of the very influential sales leaders from Snowflake, who built the business in Europe over the last 10 years. And they interviewed thousands and thousands of AEs, and they hired hundreds of AEs, and they built out a bit of a prolific kind of plan about analyzing data that correlated top performers with the key characteristics that they displayed. Did this over a number of years, and they as a team worked tirelessly on it. And they shared with me what they uncovered in all those years of that research and what the 5 key characteristics, which they called the DNA of A players, they then look for in their hires. And lo and behold, as they continued to do that, sales performance only increased. These are top performers that again and again overachieve, and the rock stars we all want in our teams. So I'll come on to that shortly, and the takeaway at the end of this will be that I'm going to give you my 5 favorite interview questions that correlate with those key characteristics. So quickly, VP Sales at Ben. Who are Ben? Ben are the fastest growing benefits platform that you've never heard of. We take benefits, can quite often be quite dry, right? Pension over here, life insurance over there. Not quite sure what you've got. Engagement is low. We change all of that. We increase engagement by 90%. We reduce admin by 80%. And we reduce costs by 24%. It's a bit of a win-win-win. And as I mentioned, I've joined Ben. I've been given this kind of guidance and a bit of a brief from Snowflake, and I want to share that with you today. So, moving on. Snowflake also mentioned there's 2 things happening in the industry why I think this is more important than ever. Number 1 is, as we talked about already a few times this evening, actually the changing market. A lot of us have got smaller teams. There's less AEs now in our teams to carry that number. If somebody misses, the delta is bigger, right? Meaning you haven't got room for B and C players. You need A players, right? Number 2 is technology. ChatGPT, AI, automation is going to revolutionize the sales industry in the next, I don't know how many months. We don't know how, but I think downstream, lead gen, business development, SMB, transactional run rate business is going to become heavily automated. And those teams are going to change dramatically. But what that does, in my mind at least, it actually creates upstream, mid-market enterprise strat. It actually creates an opportunity for A players to carry bigger quotas and be given highly qualified, nurtured, warm sales leads. And they're going to have to run a multiple stakeholder, multiple champion, long, complex sales process that can't be automated. So I think with change at one end of the market comes opportunity at the other end of the market. With that, I think you'll also find that some of those A players will carry quotas 3, 4, 5 million, not the whatever million we're giving them now. You don't want to have a B player with a 5 million quota that comes in at half that number and gives you a 2.5 million gap, right? If someone's carrying 1 million and they hit 50%, you've only got 500,000 gap. So this is the need to have A players. And this is nothing new. We've been in sales between us for many, many years, and we try and do this each and every day. And Steve Jobs is famous for talking about, or was famous, talking about the need to have A players on your team. Just Google it. There's loads of quotes, and a couple that I love are, number 1, if you hire A players, they are self-policing, because A players only hire A players. meaning that your business is full of A players. He also said quite famously that a small team of A players will run rings around a large team of B and C players. And also, B players hire C players, and C players hire D players. You get the point. Going to give you this for free. It's called the Keeper Test. You may know it, you may not. The Keeper Test is a really simple way to you to assess whether you have A players in your team today. Comes from a book called No Rules Rules. This is the Netflix story. If you've not read it, strongly recommend it. The Keeper Test is very simple. One of your team walks up to you today and they quit. You've got two choices. You fight to retain them, or you let them go with a handshake and say all the very best. If they're in the latter, they're not A players, and they're preventing you from having an A player on your team. So do yourself a favor, offer them a lump of money and tell them you need more from that role and ask them to move on. And then you've got a gap for an A player that you can bring in. If you would fight to keep them and they're an A player, make sure you're paying them well. Give them good benefits, and they may stick around and perform for you as the market changes. So 5 key characteristics. This is what all the work done by Snowflake actually uncovered. These are the things that correlated with sales performance again and again and again. Number one, the big one, by far the biggest, probably 50% of the influence was tied to this, is drive. The grit, the engine, the work ethic, the hunger, right? You can't make that up. You've either got it or you haven't. Number 2, IQ, EQ. We want intelligent people. We also want street smart people that can read people and read the room and adapt and think on their feet. Number 3, curiosity. Someone that naturally is curious about the company, about their prospect, about their clients, wanting to know more, and actually within the company they work as well. Number 4, coachability. We all know that one. People that can be given advice and feedback and coaching and take it and adapt and get different outcomes. And number 5, extreme ownership. Not just ownership, extreme ownership. And that is the accountability layer. Don't worry, boss. I got this. I've got a plan. Last thing, my 5 favorite interview questions for those 5 key characteristics. For drive, the question is, tell me why you need to be successful. Not why you want to be successful, why you need to be successful. There should be a story there about what drives them and what gets them out of bed on a daily basis to just have that energy and that drive. Number 2, EQ, IQ. I say question, this one normally throws them. I hit them with 3 questions at once, because I want to see how they think. Can they articulate an answer without panicking? And in what order do they answer? The 3 questions are, how do you think this interview is going? What do you think I think of you? And if you could start over again, what would you do differently? Okay, it's a toughie. How do you think this interview is going? What do you think I think of you? And if you could start over, what would you do differently? Number 3, for coachability, probably one we're familiar with. What's the toughest bit of feedback you ever received? Why was it tough? Did you disagree? How did you react? What did you do differently? What was the outcome? Yada, yada. Curiosity, probably my favorite interview question. Tell me something about my business that I would be surprised that you know. Why? Because of the fact that it just shows they've done their research. I want them to validate us as the employer as much as we're trying to find out if they're the right person for us. Not just the top level stuff on our website, something that I'd be surprised that they know. That one normally stumbles a few people. And then finally, the last one, this is around extreme ownership. A broad question. Walk me through in detail how you run your business today. And what I'm not looking for is, this is my territory and here's my quota and this is the team that I work with. I'm looking for, my territory plan looks like this. These are my key accounts. This is my run rate. This is my transactional. This is the pipe that I need. Here, as I break down my quota, here's my activity. This, I work with my SDR. I want that level of detail. And non-A players can't make this up in an interview. It just falls to pieces. And like I say, I've been doing this for a while. The Snowflake stuff really, really helped. And at the moment, I know there's not many of us hiring, but when we are hiring, if you can bring in an A player, it will make a fundamental difference, in my opinion, to your business and your outcomes. Thank you very much. My name is Jim Preston.